Okay, we're live. Sean Ellis is on Growth Marketing and Outbound. Thank you, Sean. You are today in Romania. You were in an event. You came to the hotel. Thank you very much for everyone. Sean Ellis is I would say, I don't want to say, but he's the grandfather of growth marketing.
Maybe just say father. It makes me look
I like that better. I read somewhere growth. I like it better.
I'm just joking anyway.
Yeah, sorry, man. I mean, you're proud saying that in 1996 you were started doing marketing on the internet.
Yeah.
That's nearly grandfather now.
Yeah, no, that's true. But yeah.
Sean, welcome to Room, man. I'm super happy. And we were just talking before. Sean have a new podcast, which I'm going to share to everyone. Please download, share, and listen because he just bring amazing material. Sean, can you tell us to everyone how you started and where you became today, please?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started. I was born at a very young age. Now I won't go all the way back to that, but I started with internet marketing in 1996, and it was about 6 months after I invested in an internet company. So I invested everything I had into an internet company in 1995, which was eventually that we changed the name, but it was uproar.com. And we started it out of Budapest, Hungary. And I originally joined the company after I invested in a sales role. So I had been selling advertising. And it turned out that not having a marketing background and having a sales background and then having a lot of skin in the game for my investment was actually a really good set of a situation to figure out how to get internet marketing working really well. So, in sales, it's all about the funnel. So, I had to make 100 phone calls a week to get my 10 meetings, to get my 2 sales, and my 2 sales would get my, help me hit my numbers. And so that sort of numbers, rigorous driven approach was really the same thing that was needed with internet marketing. And so that's where I originally was trying to sell advertising. We had about 5 people using the website, and I was based in New York calling on these agencies. And I said to my founder CEO that, we're going to have a really hard time selling advertising if we don't have anybody using our games. And so he said, stop making excuses. And but then the next day he said, okay, I think you're right. We do need to be more proactive about trying to acquire customers. And how about you take a temporary role doing it? And so that's when I went in and took a temporary role. And, within the next 5 years, we actually became a top 10 website in the world. And I was vice president of marketing with the business. But it was, again, I think because I didn't have a marketing background, I was not so focused on kind of traditional marketing approaches. I was just very practical. I want to spend money. I want to make sure I acquire customers for less than than they're worth. And I want to be as efficient as possible as I spend that money. So we built really good tracking. I think our tracking in the mid 1990s, or mid to late 1990s was better than most people's tracking is today. And so we had to kind of custom home build it all. The company was started in Budapest, Hungary. So I was really trying to leverage our low cost engineering into marketing as much as possible. So that started with the tracking system. And then eventually we actually kind of used the YouTube strategy to grow, where we made embeddable content. And we did it about 2 years before YouTube did. So it was about the same size, but we made our games portable and embeddable in third-party websites and made it so that anyone could grab and embed that game into their site. And then we actually paid an affiliate fee when people signed up through that game. And that spread to 40,000 websites, and just all of these things together. We spent a lot of money on advertising as well, but compared to the wasted money on television, ours was we were very careful on testing and improving. We actually tested 20 banner advertisements every single day. So we had a network of people around the United States creating the banners for us. So we even A/B tested designers creating the banners. And if they created winning banners, then we kept using them. If they didn't, we stopped using them. And so I learned pretty early on that when you have the data, experimentation will lead to a better result. And and then we optimized on retention and engagement of customers, and so all of those things led us to become the #1
and it actually went IPO, this company, if it's not.
Yeah. We listed on NASDAQ in 2000, but we actually listed on the Vienna Stock Exchange in 1997. So with only a couple of years within a year of launching the business, we did an IPO on the Vienna Stock Exchange.
Okay, and, that's not luck. I mean, I would say luck is first time, but I think it happened twice.
Yeah,
that is not luck.
Yeah, basically, so we sold that company to Vivendi Universal, and in 2001, and then a couple of years later, we started LogMeIn. So same group of people. We started LogMeIn in Budapest, Hungary as well. And
what do you have Budapest, man? Do you like it?
Yes, I actually, my first time in Budapest was as a tourist in 1987. So I was in high school and my parents took me there, and my parents were just pretty adventurous. We didn't have any like family connection there or anything, but I loved it. And so I studied a year abroad there, but it turned out that, very great engineers that were super affordable in the early 90s. And so it became a real advantage for us when we had an excellent talent pool that most people didn't recognize yet at that time. And so, so we built LogMeIn up there, and, again, used the sort of same test and learn process to, LogMeIn eventually listed on NASDAQ as well.
But the funny thing is that you say is, it should take 6 months to know if the company is growing or not.
Right.
Or at least that you grow the company, both of them, the 6 first months, what was the main growth of both of them, isn't it?
Yeah. So really, I mean, at that time, I wasn't recognizing how important the upfront part was. It was really after I decided that I wanted to leave LogMeIn and kind of find my next opportunity, I looked across these two companies, and I had to be honest with myself and ask, did I get just really lucky on these two companies, or were there some things that we did unique? And first, I will recognize that I definitely did get lucky, but the luck was in having a product that people actually wanted. So I had product market fit with both companies, but then the execution skill and hard work and all of that was around how do you take that product that people like and get a whole bunch of people using it and just really, really build a massive profitable customer base. And so what I realized when I looked across these two companies was that most of the most valuable work that we did was in that first 6 months of, once the product was ready for market and we started to acquire customers, the things we figured out in the first 6 months were really the super important lessons. And we used that information to really grow the business over the next 5 years. And so that's when I looked at these two companies, if what we did in the first 6 months was so valuable in 10 plus years across these two companies, I only did the first 6 months twice. And so,
well, I don't think it's funny because we are in a world that we talk about scaling and basically everything, automations and funnels. How important is to talk to our customers on those first 6 months and to know what they need?
Yeah, for sure. Like you're learning everything about the customers. You're learning who loves it, because not everybody is going to love the product. And when you have a customer who's really passionate about it, how did they discover it? What was the first thing they did when they used the product? You want to learn everything about those people because you want to create a lot more of them. And so what I figured was that if that's the most important stage, how can I get a lot of practice in that stage? How can I do it not twice every 10 years, but maybe once every 6 months? And so eventually I got to the point where I was bringing two companies to market at the same time. And so I like when I was at Eventbrite, I was splitting my time 50-50 with Eventbrite and Dropbox. And, it was just one of those things where, again, I got lucky with a lot of these companies that the products were something where people actually did really love and enjoy them. But I was trying to document the process and get really good at what specifically should I be doing during those first 6 months. And it was less, the tactics are going to be different, but the questions you need to answer are pretty similar. And so that's where
What are the questions, man? Because I love the fact that number one, you are a sales guy, which I think probably you acquire some knowledge of programming, but I don't think it's your main language, is it?
No. I mean, I have no programming skills at all. So yeah,
okay.
It was really
everyone. I love that. I mean, and I love this. It's just an opportunity for everyone who's not a programmer themselves. And I think it's acquiring the great people around you, which is one of the things I'm sure.
Yeah.
And analytics, I think, as well, is also a very important part.
Yeah, but I think where the programming piece comes in is, again, so I studied economics in university. And so one of the big concepts in economics is, comparative advantage. So I can't be better than you at everything, but if there's something that I'm way better than you at, I want to leverage that to really be competitive. And so what I recognized when we started these companies in Budapest, Hungary, was that our engineering was our big advantage. And so how could I use that engineering to grow the business? And so it wasn't because I was an engineer, but it was more, how do I use these really talented developers to just be so much more efficient and to do programs that others just wouldn't think to do because their engineers are too expensive. And so that's why, having like this embeddable widget, which is the first one that I ever heard of anyone doing, and then having, this really advanced tracking system. And, even with Log Me In, being able to give away the product for free required some super hard work on the engineering side. When we first decided we wanted to give it away for free, we had a service cost that was $8 per user per year. And, eventually we got to hundreds of millions of users. And so, it's actually per device, but it would be impossible to give that away for free. But so we decided that it was important, and probably I couldn't have pushed it, but my CEO was able to push these engineers to say, let's see if we can re-architect this product to where we can make it so cheap to deliver the service that we can give it away for free. And, they were able to figure out how to get it down to just cents per user per year. So, just a few pennies.
Sean, I have a question. Everyone and this is like a little bit of giving from me to you, everyone who wants to learn these techniques, you're now giving a workshop for everyone. How does it work, and how can anyone get you in the company or to get...
Right. So the workshop is less about the techniques. The workshop is really more, so one of the things I would say is my skill set that I'm pretty good at is figuring out why something is not successful. And so, in the case of, I'm going to come back to the workshop in a second, but in the case of Log Me In, we couldn't grow the business because our activation was so bad. So then we solved that problem. And so being able to focus on the problem. So what I found, most companies fail at growth hacking, not because they don't understand the process. It's because one person reads my book, or one person attends, like the Reforge program or Growth Tribe or something, and then they get excited about the skills that they've developed, and they go back and they try to convince their company, and the company says, I don't get it. You do it by yourself, and you can't do growth hacking by yourself. It's something that it's about experimenting across all parts of the customer journey. And the product team owns a lot of those parts of the customer journey, and you need engineering, and you need design, and it's so what I found is that to be successful, I had to get cross-functional leaders to stop what they're doing for a day and really rethink how they're going to work together to grow their business. And that's where a workshop actually is the best way to do that. And so I do sometimes private workshops where I'll get even the whole company to stop and rethink how they grow. And then, but I can do it more affordably when I do, maybe like I did yesterday here in Romania, 7 companies where they each sent 5 people, and those, they're usually, leaders.
And for the last 3 weeks, you did London, Barcelona, Paris, Romania. Is coming out very soon, Beijing and Tokyo, man. Well, that's like a world tour.
Yeah, but I did private workshops in Berlin and in Norway, and so and another one in San Francisco. So I'm doing a lot of these workshops, and what's kind of cool is that every time I do it, I ask for feedback. And so I got about 80 or 90% of the people in my Romania workshop yesterday to give me real-time live feedback. Thank you to Itamar. Actually, you had mentioned, Itamar Gilad, and he, we did a workshop together in Barcelona, and he showed me how to use a QR code that people can immediately fill out a survey in the workshop. And then I use all of that feedback to refine the program. And ultimately my goal is, if people don't have a noticeable increase in their growth rate, I wasted my time, they wasted their time, they wasted their money. And so it's all about how do I get them to actually change their behavior and drive acceleration in growth of the business. And in that case, then, you can pay pretty much anything, you're gonna add a lot of value on that. But if you don't see any change in growth in the business, then whatever you pay, especially in the time, is not worth it. So that to me is the exciting part. And the exciting part is, the challenge we're trying to overcome is, how do you get these teams who aren't used to working together to suddenly come together and work together to drive growth in the business? And if you can solve that, then you can usually execute growth hacking pretty well.
I love the fact that you say acquisition is super important, but I think it's more like retention, activation, and once they're in the funnel. And I think we're talking about growth hacking, and we believe it's more about acquiring, but could it be more like referral loops?
Well, I think they're all important, and they're all interdependent. So, for me, the most like aha moment was when I was at LogMeIn, and I was in my traditional marketing silo as vice president of marketing. And I was working so hard to spend a lot of money cost effectively, or also use free channels, whatever I could, to bring people in. But we had such a hard product to use in the beginning that 95% of the people who signed up for the product never once used it. And so if I didn't fix that, I can be really creative on how I acquire people, but if they all hit a dead end, then we can't grow the business. And so for me, that was, I actually got the CEO. I told the CEO about the problem, and then he got me to work with the product team and the engineers and designers, and we all worked together to solve that first user experience. And we, in about 3 months, got 1,000% improvement in the sign up to usage rate. So now when I went back and tested marketing channels, the same ones I tested before, I could now spend $1 million a month with a fast payback. So 3 months, I would be paid back all of that money, where before I could only spend about $10,000 a month. So it's not that acquisition's not important. It's that acquisition is almost impossible if you're not really good at activating, so converting those users, engaging those users, monetizing, and driving referral from those users. And that most of the activation and referral is not controlled by marketing. It's often controlled by product and with the help of engineering and design. And so that's why I need a full team to step out and say, how are we going to work together on this? And so when I do that, I don't just say, let's all work together. It's we have to find the common goal that we all share. And usually that's the mission of the business. And how do we work together to deliver lots of value to customers? And then I teach process, but I have to get the goals aligned before the process even matters. So these are all things that I've kind of learned through trial and error as I've developed the workshop.
Well, trial and error, 2 IPOs, one amazing book. It's just like a lot of experience, which I think is amazing that you've been sharing. John, just going down to the end part, how do you deal family and work, traveling? Help us. Help me a little bit.
It's difficult. Like that. So when I was on the plane to come to Romania, my daughter is not well right now, and so I sat in the emergency room with her all day, and it's so hard to get on a plane and leave. But she's fine now. Like we everything got tested, but it's hard when you have family challenges to get on the plane and leave. But when I'm at home, I'm really at home. So I have one rule that is, if I'm not in a meeting, whenever my kids, I have one daughter who's 20 years old and one daughter who's 17 years old. Whenever they contact me, it's always the right time. I'll stop work and talk to them for 1 hour or 5 hours, whatever's going on. And so even when I'm traveling, so, I mean, the chances that I'm actually doing a workshop or on stage or in a meeting are actually pretty low. And the rest of the time, 4 o'clock in the morning last night, I was on the phone with my daughter in California, and that's to me, it's my first priority when I'm not doing it, and especially my older daughter's away at college, so I'm whether I'm sitting in Southern California or on the other side of the world, we're already going to be many hours apart.
It's funny because when we think you don't want IPO, it's like, yeah, I've got enough money. Come on, guys, let's chill out. But it's like, no, I did it again. And then you're going, and it's to know when I'm in the same point, I believe that I will be doing the same, because I think what you do is vocational and teaching companies how to grow.
Well, so I mean, I kind of think of, there's two big challenges. Like, initially, the companies I was working with were the big challenges. How do I get the right people to use the product and keep those people and make it profitable? But then I had a broader mission myself, which was not only how do I figure out how to take new businesses to market, what are the right things to do in the first 6 months? I shared everything that I was learning, and a lot of people told me I shouldn't, that I should keep that private to myself. But I shared on my blog everything that I was learning, and because it's something like, if new innovation that's valuable, if I can help to define the path of how you can be successful with it, that was important to me, and so that's not really so much about money. Of course, I made good money doing it, which is great, but money at the end of the day, you get burned out just chasing money. It's to me, money is a byproduct of doing important stuff and trying to do it really well. And so now my big focus is, how do you take companies that are growing in a more traditional way and help them to change the way they're growing so that they can get that step change and be really more successful with it. And that's where I'm saying trial and error and learning. Like I think in a year from now or 2 years from now, I'll say, gosh, I really didn't know very much right now, because I'm still on that very steep learning curve. And it's fun to try to figure that out and kind of give back to companies. But again, at the same time, I make a lot of money on the workshops, but my goal is always to make it so that the businesses themselves get a much bigger return on investment than it costs them. And so that's, then it's win-win for everybody.
Okay, Sean, thank you very much for being in the show. Please, to everyone, just a way to say thank you. Go to the podcast from Sean ELLIS. We're going to be sharing his link, and make sure you download, you subscribe, and share the love of Sean ELLIS. And please go and get his book as well, which I'm going to be sharing with no affiliates or anything. And Sean, thank you very much. I hope your daughter gets well. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Gerard.
Hopefully I'll see you in Barcelona when you come back.
Absolutely. And by the way, the link I shared with you is for the Acorns podcast, but I just recently published for TransferWise with Nilan Paris, the Vice President of Growth. And so, yeah, it's I think there's some very cool interviews that I have in the pipeline with the people who are leading growth at the world's fastest growing companies.
That's amazing, Sean. We will make sure we drive a little bit of as much traffic as we can to this podcast.
Perfect.
And thank you very much. Best wishes, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Best wishes. Bye-bye. Thank you.